So Tna Impact took place once again from Orlando, Florida. The show starts with Kurt Angle coming to the ring. Angle says that Thanksgiving is a day for family and being blessed. He says that for him, it means staying healthy and having the fans behind him as he attempts to earn his way into the TNA Hall of Fame. Angle says that Austin Aries gave him a battle in their tournament match, but now he moves on to face someone that has a personal tie to him. So he tells Magnus to come out, and Magnus comes to the ring. Angle wants to know why Magnus deserted him during the 8-man elimination tag team match last week. Magnus says that he respects Angle more than anyone else in wrestling. He says that Joe kicked his ass during their Falls Count Anywhere match, yet he still made the choice to be on Angle's team. Magnus says that his knee kept hindering him from competing and that he had to quit. Angle tells him that a champion doesn't complain about competing when he's hurt. And he asks Magnus if he has the heart to wear the belt. Magnus says that not only does he have heart, but he has the hunger to win the title, and he will show that to Angle. Angle says that their friendship is not going to keep him from doing what he needs to do, and that is beating him and either Robert Roode or Jeff Hardy in order to become the world champion. Then Roode comes out. Roode says that he understands the heart and hunger references and mentions Bound for Glory 2011. He says that heart and hunger didn't bring him the title then because he lacked the behavior to be merciless. Having that behavior allowed Roode to hit James Storm with a beer bottle to become the world champion. Roode says that what he did to Storm during their tournament match won't compare to what he's going to do to Jeff Hardy. He tells Magnus that he will never win the title, which prompts Magnus to go after Roode, but Angle prevents him from doing so. Then Jeff Hardy comes out and drags a table down the ramp. He tells Roode that in order for him to be in the tournament final, he has to beat Hardy and the Creature Brigade. He says that putting Roode through a table is all he needs to do. Then Hardy starts his own chant. I realize that TNA is back in front of the theme park visitor crowd, but I don't remember them ever being needed to be coerced into chanting for Hardy, by Hardy. Decent opening segment involving all 4 participants, which served its purpose. It provided a small but solid build for the Angle Magnus match later in the show, as well as a smooth transition into the semifinal match in the World Heavyweight Championship Tournament, the tables match. Robert Roode versus Jeff Hardy. Good match. During the match, Roode and Hardy both went through a table at the same time, which prompts TNA to try to create drama over the commercial break as to whether the match was going to end when you knew damn well it wasn't going to end that way. The match ends with Roode laid out on top of a table and Hardy attempting to put Roode through it with a swanton bomb from the top rope. Roode, however, rolls off the table, but Hardy nails Roode with the swanton bomb over the table. He props Roode up on top of the turnbuckle. Hardy delivers a few blows to Roode and positions the table in front of the ring corner. Hardy goes to the middle rope and tries to suplex Roode off the top rope and through the table, but Roode counters with punches and tries to deliver a front suplex to Hardy through the table, but instead, Hardy lands crotch first on the top rope. From the ring apron, Roode tries to suplex Hardy over the top rope and through a table outside the ring. Hardy reverses the momentum and tries to kick Roode in the midsection. Roode catches his foot, but Hardy hits him with a mule kick that sends Roode off the ring apron and through the table. The winner of the match, Jeff Hardy. Hardy advances to the tournament final to face the winner of the Kurt Angle Magnus semifinal match. The ending to the match could have been more dramatic, with Hardy putting Rude through the table with the Swanton Bomb that he tried to do earlier. This ending felt a bit cheap, but not too much to ruin the match. I thought that Rude would win the tournament, face AJ Styles in the unification match, lose to Styles, get another match with Styles and beat him for the title at Lockdown, and hold the belt until Bound for Glory, when he would lose the title to Magnus. Now that Rude is out of the tournament, that clearly telegraphs the outcome of the Angle-Magnus match, but that's fine because the Angle-Rude program is one of the few things that TNA is doing right. So then we see Ethan Carter III backstage having makeup put on his face. He says that he will have a match with a TNA legend who is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Translation, something once again that is not what it seems. So then we see Dixie Carter in her Nashville office via Impact 365. She says that she has received an email from AJ Styles' agent stating that he will be sending her the world title belt and that she will receive it sometime during the show. So basically, Dixie feels that her legal team has made her victorious and that she really thinks that Styles has given her the title back. Okay. So then we see Ethan Carter III come to the ring. He calls out referee Earl Hebner as his opponent. Ethan says that he needs another referee to officiate the quote-unquote match. So Rockstar Dud brings out Brian Hebner. Ethan tells Senior Hebner to lie down on the mat and puts his finger on top of him. He orders Junior Hebner to deliver the 3 count. Ethan wins the quote-unquote match. This is what I would have done. Ethan comes out. He announces that his opponent for tonight is Sting. He says that Sting has been begging to have a match with him, hence using Sting's entitlement reference against him. He says that Sting called him on the phone and told him that he's not showing up for the match because he changed his mind and doesn't want to be embarrassed by losing to him. Ethan says that he can understand that because Sting is an embarrassment. Then Ethan could do a little shooting and talk about how bad Sting looked in the ring at Bound for Glory. He could also go into why Sting shouldn't be wrestling anymore and why he needs to retire. And of course, he'll end it with his lame catchphrase. The Sting-Ethan program is waiting to happen, so why not start building toward it now? At least Ethan would look more credible and generate more meaningful heat by berating Sting rather than by putting his finger on a referee. So then we see Sam Shaw and Christy Hemme having dinner at a restaurant. The server brings the bill, and Christy excuses herself to go to the restroom. Shaw signs the bill and picks up a butter knife. He grips the knife with an aggressive look on his face. The server returns to get the bill, and Shaw grabs him, telling him that he was eyeballing Christy and that if he did it again, he would be put under. The server leaves, Christy returns, and Shaw's behavior returns to normal. Another interesting segment with Sam Shaw, and we will see how this turns out. Hopefully his entrance music, his ring gear, and his moveset will reflect this new persona effectively. So then we see a segment with the same video clips of AJ Styles in Mexico and Japan. It would be more engaging if TNA would show some different clips as they present the same message. So then we see Dixie Carter backstage on the phone. A flunky interrupts her and tells her that a delivery for her has arrived. And Dixie gets excited, thinking that it's the TNA World Belt. Instead, a second flunky brings her a bouquet of flowers from a fan. Dixie tells her flunkies that the next delivery brought to her better be the championship belt. So then we see Robert Roode backstage. Roode is complaining about being eliminated from the world title tournament. He specifically states that he is a wrestler, but yet he loses the match by going through a table. Roode is right, of course, storyline wise. Or was this just part of the story? Could this have been a legit shot at the unnecessary need of stipulations for these tournament matches? So then we see Sting arriving at the building. And this would have played perfectly into my scenario that I just described earlier with Ethan Carter III. So then we see Dixie standing in front of a group of wrestlers backstage. She tells them that the Wheel of Dixie was the greatest wrestling idea ever created. It was so creative that we hardly saw it. Then Dixie decides to bless the wrestlers by announcing that they will compete in a Feast or Fired match next week. Now, looking at the backs of the heads of these guys, it looks like Chavo Guerrero, James Storm, and Gunner will be involved. I don't particularly care for Feast or Fired, but one reason why this is not a good idea to do right now is because the tag team division and the X division are not competitive enough for TNA to be giving out random title shots for those championships. Random title shots should be at champions that have been defending regularly and or have credibility. TNA doesn't have that with those two divisions. I'm going to skip the Bad Influence Joseph Parks segment because this is a tire turning in the mud program that continues to go nowhere and continues to belittle Christopher Daniels and Kazarian, who are much better than this. So then we see Sting and Magnus backstage. Sting tells him that he's on his way to the top and that he's happy for him. Magnus says that even though the Main Event Mafia is done for now, he has the utmost respect for Sting. Sting says that people have been telling Magnus that the entitlement comments that Sting made when the Main Event Mafia broke up were directed toward Magnus. Magnus says that he didn't think the comments were about him, but he asks Sting if they were. Sting wants Magnus to say if they were or not. Sting brushes off the topic, wishes Magnus luck, and leaves. So then we had a non-title match. The Glorified Jobbers versus James Storm and Gunner. Okay match. The match ends with Gunner pounding away at Mr. Duh in the corner. Robbie E grabs Gunner by the head and throws him down to the mat. Gunner goes after Robbie E and chases him on the outside. Robbie E goes back in the ring, and as Gunner re-enters, Mr. Duh tries to hit Gunner, but Gunner punches him. Robbie E hits Gunner from behind and stuns him enough for Mr. Duh to deliver a drop kick. He goes for the pin, but Gunner kicks out. Mr. Duh takes Gunner into the corner and rams his head in the turnbuckle. He follows that with a punch and several kicks. Gunner attempts a comeback, but Mr. Duh shuts it down and gives Gunner a couple of elbows to the chest, then chokes him against the ropes. Mr. Duh whips Gunner off the ropes, but Gunner grabs his arm, picks him up, and delivers a fallaway slam. Gunner makes the tag to Storm, who hits Mr. Duh with consecutive clotheslines. He whips Mr. Duh off the ropes, but Mr. Duh reverses the whip. However, Storm comes off the ropes with a flying forearm. Storm hits Mr. Duh with an inverted atomic drop, then comes off the ropes and delivers a neckbreaker. Robbie E comes in the ring, but Storm hits him and throws him out of the ring. Storm executes the double knee chestbuster on Mr. Duh and sets himself up for the super kick, which he executes successfully. However, Robbie E spits beer, ? In Gunner's face. which causes Gunner to lose it and bash in Robbie E's face. The referee tries to get Gunner off him, but Gunner shoves him. The referee calls for the bell. The winners of the match by disqualification, the Glorified Jobbers. After the match, Gunner and Storm argue with each other, and Storm leaves him behind. This match was about furthering the process of the eventual split between Storm and Gunner and nothing else. TNA Creative, I realize that there are certain things that you're doing right now because you think they're funny when they're not. But you need to realize that there is absolutely nothing hilarious about having Zema Ion sound off that air horn during the match. It's bad enough you have him doing it, period. But during the match? Think about the casual wrestling fan that goes through the channels, stops on Impact, hears that horn during the match, and keeps turning. So then we see Sting backstage about to knock on Kurt Angle's door when Rockstar Dud jumps in front of him. Okay, let me jump to the point where Rockstar Dud leaves because this segment was terrible. When Dud leaves, why didn't Sting knock on Angle's door and go in? Wasn't that what he was there to do? Instead, he yells and leaves. Terrible. So then we see an Impact 365 video with Gail Kim and her husband Robert Irvine. Gail is asked about her open challenge and she says that it's been a joke because she has been beating her opponents quickly. Irvine says that Gail's time shouldn't be wasted unless a wrestler that can beat her shows up. Please limit Mr. Irvine's presence to these Impact 365 videos and nothing further. So then we see another Impact 365 video with Chris Sabin and Velvet Sky. Sabin is videotaping himself in the mirror and talks to himself as Velvet thinks that he's talking to her when he mentions quote unquote you, bringing him back from the worst part of his life. Velvet asks Sabin if she looks good and Sabin says that it's about both of them looking good. I was actually interested in seeing where this Velvet Sabin angle goes, but TNA has been so inconsistent with it that something extremely dramatic would have to happen in order to jumpstart this storyline. So, next week, Sabin will defend the X Division title against Austin Aries. It appears that the X Division has suddenly become convenient for TNA to present. So then we have the women's match. Gail Kim, accompanied by Lady Tapa, versus Laura Dennis. This is the third match of the Gail Kim Open Challenge. Tapa's music and graphics are not played before Gail's as TNA has been doing, so it's nice to see some logic finally sink in as far as that's concerned. Gail wins with the Eat Defeat as Laura Dennis displayed hardly any offense at all. So-so match. After the match, Gail gives Dennis another Eat Defeat. Then Tapa picks her up and is about to deliver the fireman's carry cutter when ODB comes running to the ring. ODB chops away at Tapa, clotheslines Gail, then resumes her chops on Tapa. She comes off the ropes and clotheslines Tapa over the top rope. ODB sticks her head through the ropes and Tapa grabs her by the throat. Gail pushes Tapa away and they retreat. So ODB finally gets physical with Tapa, which needed to happen as this leads to their eventual match. Laura Dennis, who is better known as Cherry Bomb on the independent circuit, completely mirrored Candice LeRae's performance. Someone who is better in the ring than what she displayed. But Dennis should have looked better than she did, because this was the match that should have been longer and should have had Gail struggle more to win. The next match in the Gail Kim Open Challenge absolutely has to reflect that. So then we see Dixie Carter on the phone with Rockstar Dud, and she finds out that her package has arrived. Outstanding. So then we have the other semifinal match in the World Heavyweight Championship Tournament. Last man standing match. Kurt Angle versus Magnus. Good match. Now, something odd happened during this match. Impact went to a commercial break, but when it returned, instead of seeing the match, we see Dixie and Rockstar Dud with the package. So TNA felt they had to show a box that clearly isn't large enough to sell holding the world belt instead of getting back to the tournament match. The match ends with Angle coming off the top rope with a moonsault, but Magnus moves out of the way. I still don't understand why he does that move. Magnus picks Angle up and slams him down to the mat. He goes to the top rope and comes off with a flying elbow drop. The referee delivers the 10 count, but Angle makes it to his feet at 9. Magnus charges toward Angle, but Angle sidesteps him, causing Magnus to crash into the referee, who goes down. Angle delivers the Angle Slam to Magnus, but he sees that the referee is still down. Robert Roode appears and knocks Angle down from behind. Roode picks Angle up and delivers a fireman's carry cutter. He leaves and knocks the referee out of his daze. The referee starts the 10 count, and Magnus makes it to his feet before 10, then falls back to the mat. The referee calls for the bell. The winner of the match, Magnus. Roode re-enters the ring and pounds away at Angle. Jeff Hardy comes running to the ring and starts punching at Roode, eventually knocking him out of the ring. Of course, we get the predictable standoff between Hardy and Magnus, who will face off in the tournament final for the world title. I didn't like the finish of the match, but I understand it. Since Roode was eliminated earlier, he figured that if he can't win the belt, he had to make sure that Angle didn't have a chance to win the belt. Thus, the interference. So then we see Dixie Carter and Rockstar Dud backstage with the too small to hold the TNA World Title belt box. Dixie tells Dud to open the package. Then she grabs the box and she looks in it. And she takes out a toy belt and starts her shrieking. So then we see a video from the Friends of AJ. AJ Styles appears and says that the belt that Dixie received may not have been the one she was expecting, but she can give that one to her new champion. He says that if she wants the belt, she'll have to come to his hometown to get it. But if she does, she should beware. Show ends. AJ Styles is back. Yes, via video, but these were the first direct comments from Styles to Dixie since he left the company. Dixie will see her new champion crowned at Final Resolution, and Styles will eventually return, thus leading to the unification match. However, Styles' return leads into the issue. Styles' contract extension ends this month. There is a possibility that Styles could leave the company again, but this time it won't be a storyline. Styles left the first time to make Dixie pay. If he leaves again, we pay. I'm Tasmart 2002, and that was my Tna Impact Analysis for December 5th, 2013. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below, click the like or dislike button, and if you subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If you're listening to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, leave your comments below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions or comments about TNA and wrestling in general, you can reach me on Twitter, Tasmart2002. That's TAZMARK2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, get at me with an email. Tasmart2002@gmail.com. And be sure to listen to the TNA Impact review that I do with Chuck P. Chuck P is moving his review to a new day and time, Sunday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Once again, Chuck P is moving his TNA Impact review to a new day and time, Sunday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern Time. And that'll be on Chuck P's YouTube channel, as always. And if you haven't visited his channel, give him a look. Decent show. Austin Aries will face Chris Sabin next week for the X Division Championship. That will be 4 weeks since Aries was on Impact, when he lost to Kurt Angle in the first round of the World Title Tournament. That is too long of a period of time for arguably the best overall wrestler in TNA to be off the screen. The inside buzzing suggests that he is still paying for the incident with Christy Hemme. In the last 7 months, it has been clear that Aries has not been utilized the way he should be. Aries paid a fine for what he did, but I had said back then that the fine would be more than financial. That seems to be the case. Aries is too valuable. Use him, or you may lose him. I'm Tasmart 2002. Gone.